Hi there and welcome. In this quick video, we're going to cover a couple of topics about getting you set up with e-signature as quick as possible. So first what we're going to do is we're going to set up just a basic document as quickly as possible, and for a lot of users this is only as far as you need to go. If you have a typical, let's say a waiver that is signed by one or two parties or something like that, then you may just stop here. We're also going to cover migration from WordPress. We have an older plugin that should not be used anymore, and all clients using that will be required to migrate soon, and the plugin will stop working soon. Simply because it's not as secure, and it also had a lot of interference with various themes and plugins that caused interference with it, so it just wasn't reliable, wasn't the right path for us to take. So version 2.0 is what we're covering. This is the older version 1.0 that was really just kind of a proof of concept. So if you're looking at this and wondering about the WordPress plugin, don't start using it if you haven't. We're just covering this for a few people that have. The good news is the WordPress shortcodes that work like that essentially is how our new system works, and most of the shortcodes are exactly the same, so this can be really a 5-minute affair. Then what we'll do is we'll cover some branding tips on how to make the docs even better and how to make them look better, and then we'll get into some advanced stuff if you are hungry for more, and show you to where to get some more information. So let's dive right in. So if you are a brand new user, you may be on a page that looks like this, and we're continuing to refine this. You can just copy and paste the doc. This is a mock-up here, so I take that back. This is the live version, but anyway, you can just create a new doc from here and just hit save. You can also start from a template, and you'll get to a page that looks like this, and in the very top right, what you want is something like this. Now these templates with the slightly tan background, those are specific to you. Nobody else can see these. So those are specific only to your account, and they're only there if you've created them or if you have saved something as a template. The global templates, which we're starting to build out and may not be live yet, so obviously we're moving right along, but depending on when you see this, look like this. You cannot edit those templates, but what you'll do is just click any of these and it'll clone a copy of, in this case, a new invoice into your account. So then there's also the third option, which is to upload a PDF, typically. Now PDFs should only be used when the formatting is very specific. Don't use it for anything else. And the reason is it won't render nicely on a phone or a tablet or some of these alternative devices. All of our documents are responsive by nature, and so this should only be used for example, like a government 1099 or a government W4 or W9, some of these type of government forms, a mortgage 1003, where it has to be on an exactly specific form, then you can do that. And if your goal is just to output to that, we're working on a system where you can make a nice responsive doc and then output it into a different doc just by using the variables, and effectively a mail merge system. So if that's your goal, you're better off actually making a nice doc or using a template and then exporting to like a mortgage 1003, that sort of thing. So that's the overview of this page, but in this case, now that I've given you an overview, I'm just going to close out of it, and we want to go straight to the actual sort of home page. Everything in SwiftCloud is tied to this drive page, and if you click on these, what looks like 3 dinner plates here, that's the drive. Every asset you ever create or upload or anything is going to be in this folder. And I just want to draw your attention to this gear here. What you can do is click this, and then click this, and you've got a few batch commands. So if I wanted to move this into a folder, then what I could do is create a new folder and click this icon and then move it into that folder. And in this case I have no folders, so nothing shows here. There's no folders to move it into, but you get the idea. I just wanted to draw your attention to it. Let's get set up as quickly as possible. So go here and click Drive, and once you're on Drive, click Add New, and on Add New, go ahead and click New Doc, and we'll just call this Test Demo. Once you do that, it's going to redirect you into the doc, and right here we have a Quick Start Setup tool. So these are all just short codes so that you don't have to remember them. So in this case, in all cases, I just recommend hitting Quick Start Setup. It's just a great starting place. It'll kind of get you going. And already we've got the beginnings of a document. So anybody migrating from WordPress, you will notice that there's none of the commands. Everything looks the same. You just have to delete the signature button and the sign at the bottom, because we put that in automatically. So anyway, you can see here where it says Swift name. This is an example of a shortcode. What we're going to do is we're just going to save this, and we're going to hit preview, and that's going to create a field called name. So right here we also have, do you like fish? Here are the options. If you wanted to manually create that, you could just go here, and let's see, we want to drop down, so we'll go, do you like fish? Yes, comma, no. The comma is what separates the options. There's hit, go ahead and hit that. We'll hit save, hit preview again. Do you like fish? Here are your two options. Here we've got a special character. We'll have to dig into that. That's the system sometimes, right now, as of May 2018, is occasionally getting special characters thrown in there and having a trouble with that. So let's dig that out. What we've got, this is an example. Oh, it's this apostrophe. So this apostrophes are a special character. So if we just take that out and then we retype it, now it looks fine. So what will happen is this was probably pasted from Word or something like that. And so all we did was just delete that and then retype it, and then everything's fine. So you can click this, and here I can sign something, and if I want, there's a few options. So if I wanted to make a larger signature, personally I think that should be a little larger by default. I prefer the larger one, so we'll just go here, go signature. I like the medium one personally. Hit save, and now when we reload this, this is a little larger. And that's it. This is now a signable doc. It's really that simple. So for anybody who is hanging on for step one, that's it. You can just start replacing this text and just editing as you see fit. Quick notes, you do need to have Swift email somewhere in there. And the reason is because we are going to email this to the signer. For legal reasons, the signer needs to have access to the document that they signed. So anywhere, that's the signature signer, the signer's email, of course, not yours. In terms of yours, who gets the message, that's down here under data handling. So what you can do is we're going to leave this as new workroom for each signer. You do have an option to put this into, we're still working on this as of May 2018, but it may be live by the time you see this, which is one workroom for all. So if you've got, let's say it was a school permission slip where you've got, let's say 30 parents of children who need to sign it. It's all really for one project. You don't want a separate workroom for each one. Then you could dump them all. This is what's going to happen with this is each signer will be saved to a folder by name in an incoming folder. So I'll sign this in a moment, you'll see. In this case, I want to email. This is my junk personal testing email. You can email to someone else. So SwiftCloud help, let's say. That is our main help. If you need any help about this, you can certainly email us. For our paying clients, we will bend over backwards, and we don't have any non-paying clients in version 2. We're just deciding to focus on clients who pay and then give them a great service. So if you have any issues, then you can certainly use that email. You can also send SMSs. I don't think this is actually hooked up yet, but it will be soon. And this automatically happens whether you check this or not. And we're continuing to refine these options. The user experience flow, that's very important. So you need to decide after somebody has signed this document, what is going to happen. So typically they go to a page that is a thank you page. A page typically on your website that looks something like this. Your goal is just reassure them that you've received their documents. That's it. So in this case, it's a kind of a junk testing site, Champagne Hospitality Group /thanks. So what we'll do is we'll copy that, hit Control-C, we'll go over here into the control panel. We can close some of these. And what we want to do is just paste that right here. And just that. And then we hit Save. And now what will happen as soon as we've signed this document, so I'll go ahead and sign it right now, Testorama at Mailinator. Let's sign and send it. What's going to happen is it's going to send us over to that thank you page that you just saw. Okay, and here's that thanks page. Just redirects just as you saw. Just lets us know. We've got some upcoming additional coding where we can thank them by first name, and we can pass some variables. We're also working on pixel tracking and setting of marketing pixels and stuff like that. So we're continuing to refine this system. Let me just show quickly the upcoming mode. If you see this newer version, you'll notice some of these buttons at the bottom. They accomplish the same thing as the older version, which had a sidebar. So up here you've got privacy options. So if you wanted this to only be accessible by logged in users, for example, you could set this to private, and then you could define who exactly has access. Most people are just going to leave this as unlisted, and it means anybody with the URL can sign it. And typically you'll just link that from the website. So speaking of, here's where you get that URL. In the newer version, it's the same basic idea. So basically, you click on the bullhorn, and we're going to continue to work on and refining this so that you can easily email this page, or you could share it on Facebook or something like that. And this is your URL will show here, and just click that, and it'll copy it. You've also got a few additional options. This is an option to tag this asset, and that can help you if you wanted to see all of your, let's say, real estate assets or all of your signable assets all at once. Comments, that feature's coming soon. This is for the languages for override, and that affects the email that the user gets. So if you do business in multiple languages, we do have clients overseas, and if you are doing business outside of your default language, which we'll touch on here in just moments, then you can override the language. Otherwise, it'll just revert to your default language. Add printing options. Occasionally, we want to use, we have systems options for mail merge, and we also have certain like time card clients, for example, that want an option to print. This is your data handling. It's the same basic idea as what you already have. You can just click this, and you can decide, okay, what are we going to do? We're going to email to somebody and just type in their email, SwiftCloud help, gmail.com, something like that, and you can define whether it's plain text or HTML. Same basic idea, and this is the same as it does the same thing as the current version. It's just an updated model that'll be going live soon. You can decide what's going to happen. Okay, so you could optionally just keep them on the page but see a confirmation message. You could send them to download a file. That's typically used in like free reports, that kind of thing. You could send them to an e-commerce, and the e-commerce is pretty interesting. We have some options here for depending. That's why this isn't live yet, is because we're working on dynamic payments so that the box that they check, so in this case, if they like pufferfish, then we could say charge them 50, and if it was angelfish, charge them 200 or something like that. You've got some options. That's kind of what we're working on. So if you need something like that, then let us know. Here you can define some users and also some permissions. We've got some options to mail merge the data, or you could request a list of people, like school permission slip model. You could invite a specific person, something like that. You could invite specific people. So that's the basic idea. Now let's very quickly cover migration from WordPress. So what you could do is just copy this entire document. So I'm going to go here, hit Control A, hit Control C, and I will go over here into the control panel, and I'm just going to replace all of this, and then I will strip out the Swift button and the Swift sign. If you have them in there, it's not going to break anything. We're just going to ignore it, and we want this to be medium. The small is much too small for my preference, and all of these fields should be here. We've got an email in there. We just want to make sure an email is in there, and we don't need this here. This can also get stripped out. So anything at the top, and that's it. It's migrating from WordPress is really that easy. We now have a working house sitter. We've got a few unusual characters in here. We'll just have to go through and kind of strip those out. This was just actually used for somebody house sitting for us. Next, let's touch on branding. So what we can do is very quickly, this is pretty easy, go into here and go to Edit Profile. And what we have a section here. This is About You. This is an old picture of me at a party with my lovely wife in the background. And you go to Branding Cosmetics, turn on Custom Branding. We're going to change this to a solid color. Well, I like that aqua, that's fine. And we could hook up a logo. Okay, here I've created a logo. The logo needs to be 80 pixels high, and the max width is 400, and I recommend 250. This image here is formatted to 250 right now. It stretches the image, which it shouldn't. We'll get that fixed. But it does need to be 80 pixels tall, so what we'll do is I'll select my temporary junk widgets logo here, and just hit save. It doesn't appear yet. We're kind of still refining all the core systems. This system works, but we're still continuing to make all the ancillary systems better. So now when we click this, now we've got a solid color and a background for the logo. So here's an example of what it looks like. So we've got the logo at the top, and this allows you to put some branding. So in the coming months, we'll be adding actual URLs, so you can have things like docs.yoursite.com, or you could have clients.yoursite.com. Those types of any kind of subdomain that's mapped and has your logo And we just have a little powered by SwiftCloud at the bottom. Other than that, it should look like your site. Our goal is to make it look cohesive to your brand and empower you to reach your business goals. In more advanced stuff, an example of advanced stuff is show and hide. So here's an example of that. That's a bit of a rabbit hole we can do. It really comes down to your personal business goals, but the best is just let us know what you want to do. So if you wanted to do something like show and hide, what you could do is, first you need a question is, let's say, how much is your mortgage? Then we put in a field. The placeholder hint is just what'll show temporary, and that'll disappear as soon as they click. This is the actual variable name, so there's no spaces allowed. And this is how it'll save. So if you wanted to hook this to some external system or CRM or marketing, offline marketing, or who knows what, Mortgage Point in the mortgage industry, for example, you can send that to Calyx Point. Then you can name these fields whatever you like. And we do have a variable translation system. So what we're going to do is show this mortgage only if they own a house. So next, do you own a house? And so what we'll do is, we do not want this to be required. If you wanted to make this required, just check this box. It's going to default to no. And so as a result, this is going to default. We want to default this to hidden because this is only relevant if they own a house. If they don't own a house, they don't have a mortgage. So what we're going to do is we're going to show, let's go to show hide. And what was the variable name? It was own home. And we want the default to hide. We want this set to yes. So if they select yes, then we're going to unhide this. And so this is the hiding section right here. And so what we want to do is take all of this and stick it into that section. Okay, now we hit preview. Do you own a home? No? Yes. Ta-da. We've got some extra characters in there. For that space, I think we're having some trouble with the extra spaces, but I will get that fixed tonight. So by the time you see this video, this will not be happening. It's just rendering extra spaces. Probably change the character set to deal with foreign languages. Okay, so now we change this. Do we own a mortgage? And that only shows if they select yes. If they select no. So that's just an example of conditional logic. So you can actually branch. You could even nest that together. So you could actually have, if it's above a certain dollar amount, we could create it in such a way that it shows another question for jumbo mortgages only, for example, tied to the amount. It really just comes up to whatever you want to do. And we're continuing to refine the forms systems. So in here you've got a few different options, and they're continuing to grow. So we've got a bunch of other assets in development. An envelope is a bundle of related documents. I'll show you what just that looks like. And we're continuing to refine the multi-user signature. So if somebody has to sign in a specific order, that's what we're working on right now. But you can drag these into, and then from here you can hit preview. So to make a envelope, you just call this an envelope. It's going to dump you into it. The envelope is then blank. It's not going to have anything in it. So what we need to do is select a document from our library. So we'll call this Demo 1, hit Save and Add. Now hit Save, now hit Preview, and here's that document that we were working on. So let me show you a couple other things, which are, let's see, folder. Just make a folder. That's just really just to keep things clean. It doesn't actually do anything. But if you wanted to, you could make a folder, and then it's going to dump you into it, and there's really not much in it. People and permissions, we're going to have history here of assets. It's going to be, so make sure and pay attention to these. Right now there's only one person with permissions to this. If I wanted to share this folder, I can. I can also see the files. I can also hide that file section, hide this section. So we're kind of preparing for some other exciting upcoming stuff. Up here we've got items for sale. So if you've got e-commerce, then what you can do is you can list hourly services, you can list items for sale that are flat rate, any number of things, and it'll create a nice, simple e-commerce system. We've got invoicing coming along, spreadsheets and docs. And the docs don't have to have forms in them. We also have web forms. We're going to continue to work on that next week. connect that for like lead capture and stuff like that. So really any form can be tied to the system already, and it works reliably. It's actually the same underlying system as the electronic signature. There's just no signature in it, but it does work well. And a workroom is just a shared folder. So if I go back to this folder and then I add some people into this section, it'll become a workroom. That's really the only difference, and just means that they have permissions to do things with it. So hopefully this helps you. I've kind of gone off the rails here at the end, but I wanted to show you a little bit of the power of the system and kind of where we're headed as a company. For all the simple things like waivers and stuff like that, if you have any questions, by all means drop us a line at swiftcloudhelp@gmail.com. And again, I just want to draw your attention to this drive icon, so make sure and click that. And in the coming few weeks, but this is very near term, the contact system will continue to get refined. The basic contacts are there working now. We're just continuing to refine them, and our goal is to give you a really useful address book. So here's an example of a detailed contact, and notice that everything in here is going to be clickable. So you'll be able to actually send an email right from here, and that will show in the history, which is right down here. I'll just kind of show you some of the history. So we've got all sorts of exciting things in the works, but for the meantime, let's get your document signed. Hope this helps. Thanks. Welcome.